Is the Chad Factor reporting to you live here, May 28th, 2017. And I want to talk about in regards to Boyce Watkins and Yvette Carnell and what's going on with that. And overall, my video about black politics. So I just wanted to say that I have disagreed with both of these individuals in the past. I like things Boyce has said, I like things Yvette has said, and I have both of them at the All Black National Convention last year in Atlanta, Georgia. Shook Boyce's hand, shook Yvette's hand, had brief conversations with both of them. So I'm going to start off with what I like about Boyce and Yvette and what I dislike about Boyce and Yvette, and what my whole thing about is what they're going through in black politics in general. The good things about Boyce is that he does preach about the good things about capitalism. He does preach about how we as black men need to come together, and black men in needing of trying to hold it down, come together. You know, he's talked about business. He has given people businesses. He has elevated people to create more business ventures. He does talk against liberal politics and conservative politics. He has spoken against racism, bigotry, all that. And he's also one of the only ones on YouTube that told the truth about Melissa Alexander, about her not being such an innocent damsel in distress. And you had a lawyer to back up your claim, and that's why people find you relevant. And you're also a good business person to deal with. So for Yvette Carnell, it's more so social than political. I agreed with Yvette about how many black women get treated better than black men when it comes to police or just in general, that there is some benefits to being a black woman. And you had some decent criticism of black women when I saw you at the All Black National Convention. You've also talked about what black politics should be and how we should call out illegal immigration. Both you and Boyce have done that, which is clap to both of you. And also, you went against the Hildebeest, Hillary Clinton. You did not vote for her. You did a segment with a white individual about why black people did not come to Hillary. You also spoken out against black people who were going for her and said, I don't see how you as a black person go. So I commend you for going against the Hillary Clinton machine, even though I disagree with Bernie Sanders. I know you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, but like you said, if more black people voted for Bernie, then Hillary Clinton would lose, and if Bernie Sanders was a candidate, Bernie Sanders would have beat Donald Trump, and that's just a fact. So the bad things I don't like about either of them, on the basic of both of them, is that they argue for reparations. And let me just say this right here. Any black person that was harmed by police or who went through Jim Crow or who had impracticalities with the law deserve some form of compensation for what they've been through, and I will agree with that. But as far as the entire black race, sorry, I need to button this up, given reparations, I don't think that's going to work well within our favor. As Boyce has said and Yvette has disagreed with, we are a $1 trillion consumer. And the good example I want to use here is the Native American population. The Native Americans still are attacked by the police more than any other group right now, even more than black people. You do have white people who try to take the casinos and some of the benefits of being Native American, but at the same time, Native Americans get tax incentives, there are reservations, there's billions of dollars in grants and money and land and what a lot of these tribes are getting, but they still have problems with alcoholism and different things of that nature. So my question is, with all these stuff that the Native Americans are getting right now, and they're getting government assistance as well, do you think it's going to help us? Do you think it's going to help black people as a collective, even though we're already $1 trillion consumer? That's the question. Do you think that it's going to help us out in the long run? Do you think we'll be the new Native Americans? That's just my question. Do you think that this will benefit us or put us down a more put us in a more downward spiral if that happens? And you also have to consider the fact that you will have people like your Rachel Dolezals and Sean Kings that are going to come out and say that they're 2 or 3% black, the same thing with the Native Americans, and they're going to take a lot of these reparations and incentives. So you have to think about all that stuff when you're doing this. Because I will say that there are black people that are owed different things, but I'm not going to say the entire black race. And we can talk about slavery, Jim Crow. What I'm saying is, if we're given all this stuff and all this, I just want people to ask, how are the Native Americans doing it with the government assistance, tax incentives, and land, and they still have social and cultural problems within their mind state and culture, even though they're getting this. So this is the example I want to present to you. But the bad things about Boyce, I would say, is that I think you want to give women a voice, and that's fine. Black women do need to get a voice, but at the same time, we also have to consider that as a community, the black community is a matriarchy, and it seems to me that black women run the black community, as Yvette Carnell has alluded to. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole bashing and all that, but I'm just saying it just seems to me when we talk about leadership positions, when you talk about them getting away with different crimes, the child support system, even now, a lot of black women are committing false rape accusations against black men now. It's kind of coming to it. And also, when people talk about affirmative action, yes, white women got the supreme benefit of affirmative action, but the second benefactor of affirmative action was black women, black American women. So you have to talk about the context of, I think that we need our platform first. I think if black men are fixed, that we need our platform. We need to get ourselves together before we can uplift anybody. We already have conscious movers that are saying the black woman is God, but we're not building the black boys and black men up. And also, Boyce, you did say something to the effect of, a woman, we need to praise black women because they birthed us. And I get that, but the man's seed fertilizes the woman so she can have the baby. So don't you think we need to equally go for black men and black women? Even though it seems like it's unequally praised for black women, even though they're doing all this, even though they get more. And I'm not saying black women are not victims of police brutality, racism, or different crimes, but I'm just saying the brunt of the brunt that comes down on the black community is on the black men. And it seems that black women are running it. I also don't like how Boyce Watkins has said all conservatives are just racist and evil, even though there is a case to make that there are some conservatives. And you have called out liberals too, but as a conservative libertarian that I consider myself, that's what I consider myself as. I don't like that you try to group it and you don't want to hear what conservatives have to say because they're just all racist. And then even though you say blacks, liberals and conservatives are all the same, it seems that when Bill O'Reilly got fired, you said he's the most racist person in the country. Okay, Bill O'Reilly is an a-hole. He's a belligerent idiot, and I think you said that he tried to say something about you. He's a dirtbag. I can agree with you that the man's a dirtbag. And you know what? I wouldn't want to be on the show either, and I'm a libertarian conservative. But if you're gonna say he's the most racist person in the country is the white liberal. The white liberal runs institutions and communities, and yes, politically speaking, they're conservatives run a lot. But you talk about the the intelligentsia, the colleges, the institutions, okay, the media. It's all ran by white liberals and Zionists, but that's a whole different conversation. So that's what I don't like, that you kind of stereotype a lot of conservatives to me. And even at the All Black National Convention, he was saying that your man's was saying, even though you are an advocate for free speech, which I agree with, the I keep forgetting his name. The man over the new Black Panther Party was saying that, what about those coons going for Donald Trump? Like, but you can't be a coon if you go for Hillary Clinton. I still sat through it and watched it, but you know. On Yvette, Yvette, what I don't like about her is that she keeps saying that we're victims, that we need more government assistance, that we need to increase government, we need to keep going. And to that, I'm just going to say that, you ever heard of the Tuskegee Institute? They offered free health care too, and it was ended up being the syphilis, okay? You bash people who are capitalists, you keep bashing and bashing capitalism, and I can't work with that. And you just seem to think that socialism is the best game to go in single payer healthcare, which is something I just can't agree with. It's just free market healthcare needs to happen. And we need to go by that, and we need to get the insurance companies out of it, because the insurance companies are making it more expensive, and we need to go back to just paying in cash for the insurance. And what I mean by that is, no, I don't mean just pay $20,000. I'm just saying the reason why a surgery might be $10, $15, $20, $30,000 is because of the insurance companies. So if you stop the insurance companies, they'll go down to $15, $10, $5,000, and then you have inexpensive ways of the less fortunate people to pay, because of the other smaller dentist companies, because they do exist. There is less expensive, dentistry doctors or stuff of that nature. So that's my criticism to having more government solve the problem. And you don't like anybody going for the black nationalism, do for self, or have less government. You want more government. Okay? So that's my gripe with Yvette. And pretty much with this Boyce and Yvette situation, it pretty much started when Boyce was saying that the wage gap is a myth. And I halfway believe it's true, I halfway believe it's not, because, you can catch up. People saying that it'll take 228 years to catch up to a white person. You do realize that Asians and Jews have more wealth on average than white people, so we can't catch up to whites in that amount of time. Imagine why we can't, because you never talk about the Jewish and Asian to white wage gap. So pretty much they argued about that. Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell pretty much went on the attack about that. What he's saying is dumb, and poor black people. Like, black people don't know what it means to be poor. That's what Boyce said. And Yvette said that just because you're fat, you can still be poor. Even though there's people starving in other countries and have no stomach, and skin and bone, and some people have to actually use the bathroom outside and don't have any working toilets. I believe that's kind of poor. It's not to say we don't need to still solve the poor problem, but we need to. We need to stop saying that the poor in America is the same the poor in Venezuela, China, Africa. That's my issues with that also. But pretty much it's beginning because Yvette's basically bashing Boyce about $1 trillion. Us being $1 trillion consumer, saying that's false. Had a professor from I forgot which university, I think it's somewhere in North Carolina, saying that it's bullcrap. We don't spend a lot, even though we get shoes and weaves. And then they're saying that Basically, they're saying that if we Yvette and the co-hosts and people are saying that even if we stop spending, black people will have the same exact problems. If we're more financially literal, then we'll have the same exact problems. Nothing is going to change within our communities. We can do all the boycotting and things of that nature, then nothing will change. So this is what they're saying. They bashed on him, said that Boyce has had the government pay for all his things, and this is a defense. Even though I disagree with Boyce Watkins, this is a defense of Boyce Watkins because Yvette, you have said good things, and I've agreed with you, but the socialism, the fact of the matter is this. Communism and socialism has always had influence within the black community. If you look at the Scottsboro Boys, the communists went to their defense and actually asked the woman who accused the rape of the boys to come to their aid, and the Communist Party went into full support of them. Okay, when the support of the Scottsboro Boys had a law, used the law, the New Yorker for that. They had the whole national world stage for them, but it took it 4 or 5 years. Half of them were free, and then it took maybe 10 more years for the rest to get out. And then the Communist Party did nothing for those boys afterwards, after they had the problems of alcoholism. They had alcoholism. Some of them went to prison again. They didn't help. They said they were for our best interest, but didn't help us out. Okay, that's just one example of how communists have infiltrated the black movements and tried to enrich itself, and we're being used to destroy this America. So what I'm saying is that you're saying that Booker T. Washington, Marcus Garvey, and Elijah Muhammad are praised in the black community, and the Do for Self movement is praised. I beg to differ. I think integration was praised. I think liberalism was praised. And I think that socialism and communism is being pumped in our community, and it's being pumped to being a different solution. Whereas Boyce and the other solution, which is not just do for self, but coming together as a community and boycotting, because this is what Boyce keeps saying about if you affect somebody's advertisers and get into their money, they're going to change their minds. They're going to make them change by force. And the Montgomery bus boycott is a good example of that, about how they changed the laws and had the Supreme Court do it, and basically bankrupted the whole boycott the whole thing. And like Umar Johnson said, we should have bought our own bus company. But another example of how capitalism works is Emmett Till, right? The two people that killed Emmett Till got off scot-free. That's all we hear about. But what we don't hear about is the store they had, okay? And the store they had is where it lost business. Got shut down. Black people stopped shopping there because the power of capitalism was with the power of the people. The power of socialism is you won't get a choice but to spend one thing, and there's not other choices, just one choice. Capitalism gives you more choices. Either the boycott either can come here or come there. And this is why I'm a free market, free speech advocate, and I'm pro-capitalist. So my question is, how is Boyce Watkins' politics dangerous when black people have followed socialism, liberalism, the Great Society, the welfare state, which affects both black people and white people? how has that benefited us as a community? Because we have been following your way. So this is a defense of Boyce Watkins about this. And a lot of other people will say that we did try to make our own communities with Black Wall Street and Rosewood. What they won't talk about is the rebuilding of Black Wall Street, which wasn't to the same extent when it started as, but it disintegrated because of integration and black people going to the other businesses and everything like that. Because this is where people don't get it. Jim Crow was a terrible thing, a disgusting thing. But if you're going to sit here and tell me that black people did not have a more business mindset, or our families were more intact, or that we had more of a togetherness and a more of an economic stability than we do now, then you're just crazy. Because historians and people who actually live there will actually say differently. So this is what my perspective is. I think Boyce Watkins needs to stop trying to give so many women a platform and needs to start focusing more just on black men, which he does. But we've been focusing on black women for years, and it hasn't gotten us anywhere. We call them gods, we call them queens. We're not getting anywhere. They're coming after us as black men in many different ways, and we're not talking about it. And Yvette has called that out a couple times, which I'm glad she has. But you're right on capitalism. The man is right about going after the detractors and the advertisers of a certain person and boycotting them and going to them to shut down somebody. Because when you shut down someone economics, then you make them change their mind, which is what happened with Bill O'Reilly and Don Imus. So, Yvette Carnell, you are right, as I've said, about how black women get more benefits and how something happens to a black woman, nothing, but if something happens to a black man, people praise it and celebrate it. And I do agree with you, we do need more black politics, but your version of black politics has happened for 50 or so years and nothing. And by the way, congrats on getting Monique. That was a decent interview, and I agree with that Hollywood is racist. But the socialism and communism, and the professor did quote Karl Marx on your show, is dangerous, and I will not subscribe to any communistic belief or socialism. I think that's dangerous. I think history proves that socialism or communism does not work, and I think it's a bad viewpoint in saying that. The point is we had two options. We had either to do for self, do economics, and try to go the capitalist route and try to be separate but equal, but in doing our own thing. Or we could have done integration, trying to build within government and getting their resources, and that failed. So that's my perspective on that, is that had we followed the mantra of Booker T. Washington in getting ourselves, learning the trades and learning how to build and how to build buildings, bridges, learn to be electricians and getting into the trades, then the education and everything would have went to that degree. We chose integration and we chose the talented 10th, and now we're paying for it. So this is a video in defense of Boyce Watkins. I disagree with you on many fronts, sir, but I believe you're right on a solution for the black community is to get after the detractors, to get more into business and get into more entrepreneurship, and to actually boycott some of these detractors and stop doing the weeds and stop spending is how we come together. Because I don't care if anybody says, the $1 trillion consumership within the black community is a true statement, because we spend earnestly, not on shoes, weave, liquor, video games every Christmas, the mall every time. We spend 3 times our income sometimes with money we don't even have. So this is my video on my perspective. I think Yvette Carnell has done Boyce wrong. I agree with both of them on on many of their points, but I will disagree with Yvette Carnell more, and I will defend Boyce on this issue. Thank you, sir. Thank you to both of you. See you later.